10 millimeter versus 357 Magnum, and today what I have is the Hydrashok Personal Defense by Federal. The 357 Magnum is a 158 grain and the 10 millimeter is a 180 grain, but that's actually pretty close in sectional density. A lot of people will say that you need to have the same bullet weight and that makes things fair if they're different calibers, but it's actually the sectional density is what makes it fair. Basically the measurement of the weight to the length ratio. So this particular 357 Magnum, it was donated by Tim B about a year ago, so thank you very much for that. I still have this. The 357, 158 grain, rated at 1240 feet per second. Now the 10 millimeter, 180 grain, but it is only rated at 1030 feet per second, so it is kind of a low end load. I know a lot of people are going to complain, well, that's like a 40 in a 10 millimeter case, and I would have to agree, but that's how they load it. So I'm going to test it how they load it. So we're going to go through the chronograph, see what kind of velocity and accuracy we get at the same time. And then as always, we're going to go through the Juggernaut box, which contains a 1 3/4 inch pack of bologna covered by 4 layers of denim, followed by 1/4 inch medium density fiberboard that kind of simulates like a pectoral muscle, followed by sternum. And then into water jugs to catch these bullets, and how this normally compares to ballistics gels. Out the back of jug 1, we have about 9 inches comparison to gel. Back of jug 2, about 12 inches. Back of jug 3, about 15 inches. Back of jug 4, about 18 inches, and so forth. So let's get started with the test and see how the Hydrashok compares between 10 millimeter and 357 Magnum. So let's get started with the test. All right, I'm about 5 yards from the target, about 4 yards from the chronograph. We'll see what we get with the 357 Magnum. 1310. 1258. 1244. 1250. 1255. So I would definitely say we have that 1240 feet per second or greater rated velocity. I'll see how the 10 millimeter compares. All right, 10 millimeter. We'll see how this compares. Rated at 1030. 1065, 1028, 1051, 1045, and a little bit of a feed jam here. These bullet noses do look a little bit flat compared to some of the other Hydrashok. 1053, very low, maybe right at about a little bit above the rated velocity. However, with that comes very soft shooting, very soft shooting. So I guess one advantage of a load like that over 40 is I think the pressure would actually be a little bit lower than on a 40. So it's kind of easier on a gun, kind of softer shooting. Let's hit the ballistic box and see how these compare to each other. All right, first up is the 357 Magnum. And by the way, the recoil was actually, I didn't mention it, it's actually pretty low for how powerful it is. So Federal does use a good powder or something to keep the recoil kind of low. So let's see what we get here. All right. A lot of damage to the first jug, a lot of destruction on that bologna pack. So what we got is pretty good damage to this bologna pack. Nice centered hit here. Looks kind of like it's dumping its energy a little bit further in. So when we see rounds like that, they don't necessarily blow the bologna pack apart. So it's kind of hard to judge its overall performance with that. And the fiberboard is actually in the first jug, and it's definitely larger than bullet diameter hole, and the whole board is cracked. So we can see where it entered here. It's definitely starting to expand before it hits this fiberboard and blows a larger than diameter hole. And then the first jug has a lot of damage. Split the bottom, split it. I mean, this looks classic for a good 357 Magnum round. Very good performance. And we see on the second jug a lot of damage. Very similar to a really good 357 Magnum round. Its trajectory is still moving forward without deviating too much to the right or to the left. Perfectly centered shot on jug 3, and we're still going straight through, no deviation. Be expected with a heavy bullet. And we definitely damaged jug 5. The bullet is sticking out the back of jug 4, so comparison to the ballistics gel, it's about 19 inches or so. So let's pull this bullet out. And what we got is a little bit of jacket separation. It looked like it was still on it when it was in the jug, but when it poured out, the jacket came off. But that's still really good, ideal performance overall. So let's see how the 10mm compares. All right, 10mm auto. We'll see how this compares to the 357 Magnum. All right, I got another feed jam on this particular round. You know, it also might be my recoil spring. I forgot to mention that. It's 22 pound. It's a little bit heavier than the stock spring. So that's probably what's causing this. But overall, really good damage. So a good shot right through the denim. Now what we see is not quite as good of damage to the baloney pack as the 357 Magnum. I was hoping for a little bit more, thinking the lower energy, larger diameter would kind of slowly go through this. But what we're actually seeing here, and it blew the fiberboard into the first jug. And the hole isn't quite as large as the 357 Magnum exit hole through the fiberboard. But we're definitely seeing that the first jug took on a massive amount of damage. Looks very similar to the 357 Magnum, about 80% of the damage compared to the 357. Jug 2, went right through, emptied it, just a really large hole, was able to empty an entire jug. Impressive. Jug 3, there's an impact on 4 for sure. This is going in a straight line without much deviation. And I can see a dent and a crack on jug 5 there, and a dent out the back. So while the 357 Magnum would be about 19 inches comparison to ballistics gel, this would be maybe about 18 inches. So what we got is pretty good performance here, pretty good expansion. Jacket did not separate, probably just low enough energy to help it not separate. A little bit of denim here on this Hydrashok tip here, but overall I'd say it looks pretty decent. So what I'm seeing with this ammunition is it's both seems to be pretty good. Now, we're going to talk about the Glock issue here. It didn't quite feed well. I don't think, honestly, when I look at it, that it's the tip of these bullets. I think it's the 22-pound recoil spring. So if you have a 10mm setup for shooting a little bit higher end rounds, this particular ammunition probably would not be the best. However, if you have something, let's say a Glock 29, so it's got a kind of a light slide, and then you have the stock 17-pound spring, this would probably feed beautifully through that, something like that. And probably any of the other stock 17-pound Glock springs that are on most of the 10mm pistols would work pretty well. But I would say be cautious if you're using it in a little bit more beefed up spring configuration in your gun. So overall, pretty good performance with both. I think they both did really well. 357 Magnum wins this one just because it was perfect and we didn't have feeding issues, and it was a very powerful round right in the middle of the road for 357 Magnum. This is a little bit low end. It still works, it still would work. I would keep this in your smaller 10mm pistols. So that's what you get today between 10mm and 357 Magnum with Federal Hydrashok. So as always, comment, share, and like, and thanks for watching.